I was not asked whether I wished to marry him. The decision was spoken as one speaks of weather, inevitable, impersonal, a ruined widower, a distant barony, my duty. I said nothing, but that was the night everything shifted, though not in the way the crown intended. The palace had always been a place of measured footsteps and lowered voices. I moved through its corridors as I had been taught, graceful, obedient, untouchable. At dawn, I listened to ministers argue behind carved doors. At dusk, I practiced smiles before polished mirrors. I dined beneath painted ceilings, where loyalty was praised and affection was never mentioned. I had been raised to understand alliance is not tenderness. A daughter of royal blood does not choose. She is chosen. And so I rode toward Blackmoor beneath a sky the color of ash, believing I was being sent to save a dying estate. I did not yet know I was riding toward a man who would unravel far more than debt. I was not asked whether I wished to marry him. The decision was delivered to me the way one delivers news of an approaching storm, calmly, as though resistance would be childish. The Baron of Blackmoor has agreed, my uncle said, agreed, as if I were a parcel to be transferred, as if my name were ink on a treaty. Blackmoor, even the name carried ash within it. The barony had once been prosperous, fertile lands, iron mines, loyal soldiers. Then came debt, then scandal, then the war that swallowed half his men and left the other, half broken, and finally the fever that took his wife. He was a widower, ruined in fortune, whispered about in court corridors, and now my husband. I remember standing by the tall window of my chamber when I was told. The frost clung to the glass in delicate veins, like something alive and dying at once. I pressed my fingers against it until the cold burned. I had always known I would marry for duty. I had been raised for it. Every courtesy I mastered, every language I learned, every smile I perfected before polished mirrors. Daughter of the royal blood does not belong to herself. She belongs to the crown. Still, I had not imagined it would feel like this. Not fear, not quite despair, something quieter, like a door closing in a distant part of my soul. I had seen the Baron only once before, from across the grate. All during winter court, he had stood alone near the pillars, dressed in black despite the festivities, tall, severe, his face carved with lines too deep for his age. He did not laugh, he did not bow easily, and when my gaze had brushed his, even by accident, he had looked away first. That had unsettled me. Men did not look away from royal daughters. They looked too long. The court said he had loved his wife fiercely. The court also said she had died screaming. Rumors are the only currency that never loses value. 3 weeks later, I rode toward Blackmoor under a sky the color of tarnished steel. The journey was silent. My escort rode ahead. My maid wept quietly behind me, believing I could not hear her. I did not weep. Royal daughters do not weep where others can. See, Blackmoor rose from the hills like a wound that refused to close. The keep was older than the capital itself, its stone darkened by time and neglect. No banners flew from its towers, no music greeted our arrival, only the wind. The gates opened slowly. He waited in the courtyard. The Baron of Blackmoor, my future. He wore black again, not ceremonial black, mourning black, as though time had frozen around him. He bowed, correctly, precisely. My lady, his voice was deeper than I remembered, controlled. "My lord," I answered. We studied one another for a heartbeat. Too long. There was something in his eyes, not cruelty, not warmth, something guarded, something exhausted. The marriage ceremony was held at dusk. No celebration followed, no feast worthy of union. Only a modest meal in the great hall attended by his remaining household and 2 envoys from the ground to witness the alliance. An alliance, that is what they called it. He did not touch me during the meal. He did not look at me unless required. But I felt him, his awareness, like a drawn blade, resting across a table between us. When the final cup was drained and the hall emptied, a stillness settled over Blackmoor. The servants withdrew, the home torches dimmed. The corridors seemed longer than before. "My lady," he said quietly, standing beside me near the hearth, "you must be weary from travel." It was courtesy, nothing more. "I have endured worse journeys," I replied. A faint pause. "Blackmoor is not what it once was," he said. "I did not come for what it was." His jaw tightened slightly. "And what did you come for?" "Duty, survival, sacrifice." Instead, I answered, "To fulfill my oath." Something flickered in his expression, gone too quickly to name. He gestured toward the staircase. "I will have chambers prepared for you, not ours." We climbed the stairs in silence. The corridors were lined with faded tapestries depicting victories long forgotten. Dust lingered in the air like unsettled ghosts. When we reached the door of the chamber, that was to be mine, he stopped. "This was her room," he said. "Her, not my wife, not the Baroness, just her." The word lingered between us. Like a challenge, I felt something then. Not jealousy, not insecurity, but the unmistakable awareness that I had stepped into a space where grief still breathed. He opened the door. The chamber was vast, cold, untouched. A single candle burned near the bed. I walked inside slowly. He remained near the threshold. "You may have anything altered," he said. "If it displeases you, it does not displease me." That surprised him. Most would prefer not to sleep where another woman died. Most are not born into crowns that earned the faintest hint of a smile, not warm, but real. For a moment the air shifted, not hostile, not tender, simply human. Then it returned. The distance. He stepped back. "You will be safe here," he said. "Safe from whom?" Before I could ask, a sound echoed from somewhere deep within the heap, a sharp clang, metal against stone. We both froze. His head turned toward the corridor. "That is not the wind," I said quietly. "No." Another sound followed, footsteps, not hurried, measured, coming from the lower halls. He moved, instinctively positioning himself slightly before me without seeming to notice he had done so. "You were not expecting visitors?" I asked. "Not at this hour." The footsteps continued, unhurried, confident, not the uncertain tread of a servant. Something else, a presence. He reached for the dagger at his belt. The candle flickered violently, then silence. A knock, not upon my chamber door, upon the main doors below. 3 deliberate strikes. The Baron's gaze hardened. "Remain here," he ordered. "I am not a child." "No," he agreed softly. "You are not." But he left. I crossed the chamber despite his command. I stepped into the corridor. The keep felt different. Now, awake, watching. I could hear distant voices, Below, too muffled to distinguish words. Then a tone, low, male, unfamiliar, not one of his men. Not a servant, someone else, someone who spoke. With calm authority, I moved toward the balcony that overlooked the entrance hall, careful, silent. From above I saw him, not my husband. Another man, tall, cloaked in deep green rather than black. His hair fell loosely to his shoulders, catching the torchlight like burnished gold. His posture was relaxed, almost insolent. Despite the guards positioned around him, he was not afraid. That was the first thing I noticed. The second, he was looking upward at me as though he had known precisely where I would stand. Our eyes met across the vast hall, time stilled. He did not bow. He did not avert his gaze. Instead, he smiled, slowly, not with mockery, not with charm, with recognition. My breath caught. I had never seen this man before, and yet there was something disturbingly familiar in the way he regarded me, as though my arrival at Blackmoor had altered more than a marriage contract, as though that night had been awaited. Below, my husband's voice cut through the hall. You were not summoned. The stranger's eyes never left mine as he answered. I rarely wait for summons. A murmur rippled among the guards. Danger coiled in the air. I should have stepped back. I should have retreated to the safety of my chamber. Instead, I remained watching, because in that single glance, I understood something I had not expected. The man I'd been forced to marry was not the only force shaping my fate. And whatever had just entered, Blackmoor had not come by accident. I did not leave the balcony, even when I knew I should, even when I felt the weight of my husband's authority pulling against my disobedience. Below, the stranger stood as though he had stepped into his own hall. The guards flanked him, uncertain. The ceased torches cast gold across his features, sharpening the lines of a face too composed for a trespasser. My husband descended the last step slowly. Controlled, dangerous. You stand in my keep, the Baron said. You will answer for it. The stranger inclined his head slightly, just enough to acknowledge the words, not enough to concede to them. I stand where I am required. His voice was smooth, educated, not the voice of a mercenary or wandering knight. My fingers tightened around the cold stone of the balcony. Required by whom? The Baron stopped a few paces away from him, close, enough that a blade could bridge the distance in a breath. You were told to remain in the capital, and you were told to accept assistance. Silence fell between them, not the silence of confusion, the silence of shared history. I felt it then, the invisible thread binding them, not friendship, not brotherhood, something older, something unresolved. The stranger's gaze lifted again. To me, I should have stepped back. Instead, I held his stare. He studied me as though measuring not my beauty, not my rank, but my strength. That unsettled me more than admiration ever could. The Baron followed his line of sight, his shoulders hardened. You will not look at her. Your wife? The stranger's lips curved faintly. I was merely confirming the rumors. And what do they say? I heard myself ask before reason could restrain me. Both men looked up. My husband's expression darkened, not with anger, but with something closer to alarm. The stranger answered me directly, that the crown has bound Blackmoor with blood instead of gold. A chill slid down my spine. I am neither coin nor chain, I replied evenly. His smile deepened, though his eyes remained sharp. "No," he said softly. "You are something far more dangerous." My husband's voice cut between us. "You will speak to me, not to her." A faint shift in the air, a challenge accepted. The stranger finally gave the Baron his full attention. "I came because the council grows restless," he said. "Your debts are no longer your only weakness. I require no counsel from you. You require allies. I require loyalty." The words struck like steel. The stranger's expression flickered, just briefly. "You mistake me if you think I have ever offered anything less." I watched my husband carefully. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he said, "You may stay the night. At dawn you will return to the capital." It was not a request. The stranger inclined his head again. "As you wish," but the way he said it suggested he rarely did as others wished. The guards relaxed marginally. The tension thinned but did not disappear. My husband gestured sharply. "Prepare a chamber." Servants scattered. The hall began to empty, yet still I remained above, watching. The stranger did not move at once. He lingered, glancing upward one final time. Not boldly now, not provocatively, quietly, as though memorizing something. Then he turned and followed a servant down the corridor. Only when he vanished did I release the breath I had been holding. "You defy me quickly." The voice behind me was low. I turned. My husband stood in the shadows of the upper corridor. He had moved silently. "I observed," I replied. "You were told to remain in your chamber." "I'm not accustomed to being dismissed." A long pause. "No," he said. "I imagine you are not." We stood facing one another. In the dim torchlight, he studied me more carefully than he had all evening. "Not as a political obligation, as a woman. You should be cautious," he said at last. "Of whom?" "Of him." "Who is he?" A hesitation. That more than anything caught my attention. "An old ally," he answered. "That is not what you almost said." His jaw tightened. "You pressed too soon, and you concealed too much." Silence thickened between us. I felt it, the fracture forming beneath the surface of our alliance. Love had not brought me here. Duty had. But something else had entered Blackmoor. Tonight, something neither of us had planned. "He is dangerous," the Baron said finally, "because he threatens your power, because he does not fear it." The words lingered. Fear. I had seen none in the stranger's eyes, only certainty. "And you?" I asked quietly. "Do you fear him?" For the first time since our marriage began, my husband looked at me without armor. "I fear what follows him." A distant door closed somewhere within the keep. The sound echoed like a warning. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Why did he come tonight? On our wedding night?" The Baron's gaze shifted briefly toward the stairwell. "Because timing is rarely accidental in matters of court." My thoughts moved swiftly. The council, debts, allies, the capital. This marriage was not simply to save Blackmoor. It was to control it, and perhaps to control him. "You believe the crown." "Sent him," I said. "I believe the crown watches everything." A quiet understanding passed between us. For the first time I saw not the ruined widower, but the man standing at the edge of something far greater than grief. "You did not want this marriage," I said softly. He did not deny it, and yet, he replied, "I did not refuse it." "Why?" A flicker of something unguarded crossed his face. "Because sometimes survival requires surrender. The words settled heavily in my chest. I knew that truth too well. We stood close now, not touching, but close enough to feel the shared weight of choices neither of us had freely made. Footsteps sounded again in the corridor below, light, measured, approaching the staircase. My husband straightened immediately. The stranger emerged into view, alone. He stopped. When he saw us, how long had he been there? How much had he heard? My lord, he said evenly, addressing the Baron. A word. You have had many already. One more. His gaze shifted to me. Unless your lady prefers to hear it as well. It was not insolence, it was invitation. My husband's voice hardened. You will not involve her. The stranger's expression remained calm. She is already involved. The truth of it struck like a bell. This was no longer a simple marriage. This was a board, and we were pieces placed with intention. I stepped forward before my husband could dismiss me again. I will hear it. The Baron looked at me sharply. The stranger's eyes held mine, and for a fleeting, dangerous moment, I felt something awaken within me. Not desire, not yet something sharper. Recognition. The stranger spoke quietly. The council does not trust Blackmoor's loyalty, he said. They believe your lands may shift allegiance if war breaks along the northern border. War. The word hung heavy in the air. My husband's expression did not change. They believe wrong. Belief rarely matters, the stranger replied. Perception does. I felt the ground beneath this keep shift, war approaching, the crown watching, a marriage forged not from union, but from suspicion. And you? I asked the stranger, where do you stand? His answer came, without hesitation. Where the future will be. Decided, a chill moved through me. The future. Not the present, not the past, the future. I realized then, the man I had met that night had not come to observe a wedding. He had come to measure its consequences and perhaps to alter them. I did not leave the balcony, even when I knew I should. Even when I felt the weight of my husband's authority pulling against my disobedience. Below, the stranger stood as though he had stepped into his own hall. The guards flanked him uncertain. The torches cast gold across his features, sharpening the lines of a face too composed for a trespasser. My husband descended the last step slowly, controlled, dangerous. You stand in my keep, the Baron said. You will answer for it. The stranger inclined, his head slightly, just enough to acknowledge the words, not enough to concede to them. I stand where I'm required. His voice was smooth. Educated, not the voice of a mercenary or wandering knight. My fingers tightened around the cold stone of the balcony. Required. By whom? The Baron stopped a few paces away from him, close. Enough that a blade could bridge the distance in a breath. You were told to remain in the capital, and you were told to accept assistance. Silence fell between them, not the silence of confusion, the silence of shared history. I felt it then, the invisible thread binding them, not friendship, not brotherhood, something older, something unresolved. The stranger's gaze lifted again. To me, I should have stepped back. Instead, I held his stare. He studied me as though measuring not my beauty, not my rank, but my strength. That unsettled me more than admiration ever could. The Baron followed his line of sight, his shoulders hardened. You will not look at her. Your wife? The stranger's lips curved faintly. I was merely confirming the rumors. And what do they say? I heard myself ask before reason could restrain me. Both men looked up. My husband's expression darkened, not with anger, but with something closer to alarm. The stranger answered me directly, that the crown has bound Blackmoor with blood instead of gold. A chill slid down my spine. I am neither coin nor chain, I replied evenly. His smile deepened, though his eyes remained sharp. No, he said softly, you are something far more dangerous? My husband's voice cut between us. You will speak to me, not to her. A faint shift in the air, a challenge accepted. The stranger finally gave the Baron his full attention. I came because the council grows restless, he said. Your debts are no longer your only weakness. I require no counsel from you. You require allies. I require loyalty. The words struck like steel. The stranger's expression flickered, just briefly. You mistake me if you think I have ever offered anything less. I watched my husband carefully. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he said, you may stay the night. At dawn, you will return to the capital. It was not a request. The stranger inclined his head again. As you wish, but the way he said it suggested he rarely did as others wished. The guards relaxed marginally. The tension thinned but did not disappear. My husband gestured sharply. Prepare a chamber. Servants scattered. The hall began to empty, yet still I remained above, watching. The stranger did not move at once. He lingered, glancing upward one final time, not boldly now, not provocatively, quietly, as though memorizing something. Then he turned and followed a servant down the corridor. Only when he vanished did I release the breath I had been holding. You defy me quickly. The voice behind me was low. I turned. My husband stood in the shadows of the upper corridor. He had moved silently. I observed, I replied. You were told to remain in your chamber. I'm not accustomed to being dismissed. A long pause. No, he said. I imagine you are not. We stood facing one another. In the dim torchlight, he studied me more carefully than he had all evening. Not as a political obligation, as a woman. You should be cautious, he said at last. Of whom? Of him. Who is he? A hesitation. That more than anything caught my attention. An old ally, he answered. That is not what you almost said. His jaw tightened. You pressed too soon. And you concealed too much. Silence thickened between us. I felt it, the fracture forming beneath the surface of our alliance. Love had not brought me here. Duty had. But something else had entered Blackmoor. Tonight, something neither of us had planned. He is dangerous, the Baron said finally, because he threatens your power, because he does not fear it. The words lingered. Fear. I had seen none in the stranger's eyes, only certainty. And you? I asked quietly. Do you fear him? For the first time since our marriage began, my husband looked at me without armor. I fear what follows him. A distant door closed somewhere within the keep. The sound echoed like a warning. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Why did he come tonight? On our wedding night? The Baron's gaze shifted briefly toward the stairwell. Because timing is rarely accidental in matters of court. My thoughts moved swiftly. The council, debts, allies, the capital. This marriage was not simply to save Blackmoor. It was to control it, and perhaps to control him. You believe the crown. Sent him, I said. I believe the crown watches everything. A quiet understanding passed between us. For the first time, I saw not the ruined widower, but the man standing at the edge of something far greater than grief. You did not want this marriage, I said softly. He did not deny it, and yet, he replied, I did not refuse it. Why? A flicker of something unguarded crossed his face. Because sometimes survival requires surrender. The words settled heavily in my chest. I knew that truth too well. We stood close now, not touching, but close enough to feel the shared weight of choices neither of us had freely made. Footsteps sounded again in the corridor below, light, measured, approaching the staircase. My husband straightened immediately. The stranger emerged into view, alone. He stopped. When he saw us, how long had he been there? How much had he heard? My lord, he said evenly, addressing the Baron. A word. You have had many already. One more. His gaze shifted to me. Unless your lady prefers to hear it as well. It was not insolence, it was invitation. My husband's voice hardened. You will not involve her. The stranger's expression remained calm. She is already involved. The truth of it struck like a bell. This was no longer a simple marriage. This was a board, and we were pieces placed with intention. I stepped forward before my husband could dismiss me again. I will hear it. The Baron looked at me sharply. The stranger's eyes held mine, and for a fleeting, dangerous moment, I felt something awaken within me. Not desire, not yet something sharper. Recognition. The stranger spoke quietly. The council does not trust Blackmoor's loyalty, he said. They believe your lands may shift allegiance if war breaks along the northern border. War, the word hung heavy in the air. My husband's expression did not change. They believe wrong. Belief rarely matters, the stranger replied. Perception does. I felt the ground beneath this keep-shift, war approaching, the crown watching, a marriage forged not from union, but from suspicion. And you? I asked the stranger. Where do you stand? His answer came, without hesitation. Where the future will be. Decided, a chill moved through me. The future. Not the present, not the past, the future. I realized then, the man I had met that night had not come to observe a wedding. He had come to measure its consequences and perhaps to alter them. The stranger did not leave at dawn. That was the first sign that nothing within Blackmoor would unfold as promised. I knew it before the servants began whispering, before the guards adjusted their patrol routes, before my husband's silence deepened into something heavier. He remained, and with his presence, the air within the keep changed. By morning, the council's seal had arrived, a rider from the capital, mud-streaked and pale, bearing a letter marked with crimson. Wax, I stood beside my husband in the solar when it was delivered. The stranger was already there. He had made himself comfortable near the hearth, as though he had never been dismissed. My husband broke the seal without comment. His eyes moved across the parchment slowly, once, twice. Then he folded it carefully. They request my presence at court, he said. Request? The stranger asked, mildly. A muscle shifted in the Baron's jaw. Summon? I watched them both. And you will go? I asked. If I refuse, suspicion hardens. If you accept, the stranger added quietly, you leave. Blackmoor exposed. My husband's gaze flickered. Toward him, not grateful, not resentful, simply aware. "And if I remain," the Baron asked, "the crown will send someone less patient than me." The words fell softly, too softly. I felt their weight, less patient, more ruthless. The room seemed to shrink. I stepped toward the window, looking out over the barren courtyards below. "This marriage was meant to ease their doubts," I said. "It was meant to bind you. It binds me." My husband replied. "Not enough," the stranger murmured. Silence. Then I turned. "You knew this would happen," I said to him. He did not deny it. "I knew the council would test the strength of the alliance by demanding obedience," I said, "by measuring loyalty." My husband's voice cut through. "And what role do you play in this measurement?" The stranger held his gaze evenly. "I am their eyes." There it was. No pretense, no veil. My breath stilled. The crown had not merely sent a message. They had sent a man who did not fear the Baron, a man who watched me as though I too were part of his assessment. "You were never an ally," my husband said quietly. "I was always an ally," the stranger corrected. "Just not only yours." The truth struck with precision. He served the crown first, Blackmoor second, and perhaps himself above all. I studied him differently now, not as an intruder, not as a rival, but as something far more dangerous, a strategist. "What does the council truly fear?" I asked. Neither man answered at once. I stepped closer. "War does not frighten them. They thrive upon it. Debt does not frighten them. They create it." "So what is it they fear?" The stranger's eyes shifted to me. "You," he said. The word landed like a blade laid gently against skin. I did not move. "Explain." "You carry royal blood," he said. "But you were not raised at court. You were educated privately, trained quietly. Your loyalties are untested. My loyalty is to the crown." "Is it?" he asked almost softly. The question unsettled me more than accusation would have. My husband's voice was steady. "She is my wife." "Yes," the stranger said, "and that is precisely the concern." The realization unfolded slowly. If Blackmoor rose in rebellion, if the northern border fractured, if my husband chose ambition over obedience, I would stand beside him. Not the crown, him. The council feared not a ruined baron. They feared a baron strengthened by royal blood, strengthened by me. "They intend to separate us," I said. My husband did not speak. The stranger answered, "They intend to ensure loyalty." "How?" "A prolonged stay at court," he said, watching my husband carefully. "For one of you." The room fell utterly still. I felt it then, the true fracture line. "If they summon me," my husband said slowly, "Blackmoor weakens." "If they summon her," the stranger replied, "Blackmoor loses its shield." Shield, was that what I had become? Not a wife, not a partner, a political safeguard. My thoughts sharpened. "And you?" asked him. "What do you advise?" His gaze held mine longer than necessary. "I advise strength, displayed, not declared. And what does that require?" "A unified front." My husband gave a low, humorless breath. "You speak as though unity is a simple matter." "It is never simple," the stranger said, "but it is necessary." I sensed something unspoken beneath his calm. He was testing us, watching how we stood together or apart. My husband moved toward the table and poured wine into 3 cups. He handed one to me, one to the stranger, then kept the third. "If you are the crown's eyes," he said, "then watch carefully." The stranger inclined his head. "I always do." We drank in silence. The wine tasted bitter, or perhaps that bitterness rose from within me. Later that afternoon, the council's rider was summoned back to the Solar. My husband dictated his response. Blackmoor remained loyal. Blackmoor would not fracture. Blackmoor would attend court together. The rider hesitated. The council specified. "The council does not command." "My household," the baron said evenly. The rider swallowed and bowed. When he left, the tension did not ease. It thickened. "You challenge them," the stranger observed. "I remind them," my husband replied, "that I am not yet broken." The words lingered. Not yet. I stepped closer to the hearth. "And if they press harder, they will," the stranger said. There was no doubt in his voice. War loomed in the north. The treasury strained. Nobles shifted alliances like cloaks in wind. Blackmoor stood at the edge of suspicion, and I stood at the center of it. That night, as dusk settled once more over the keep, I walked alone. Along the battlements, the wind carried the scent of iron and distant rain. Footsteps joined mine. I did not turn. "You walk without escort," the stranger said quietly. "I walk within my own walls. For now." I faced him then. The fading light softened nothing in his expression. "Why did you truly come?" I asked. "To prevent a mistake." "Whose?" His gaze did not waver. "Yours," my pulse steadied rather than quickened. "And what mistake do you believe I will make?" He stepped closer. "Not threatening, not intimate, measured. You underestimate your influence," he said. "You believe this marriage binds only land and title. It binds ambition. My husband seeks survival, not rebellion. And survival often demands choices that resemble rebellion." I held his gaze. "You speak as though you know him better than I do. I have known him since before his ruin. And before his wife?" A flicker passed through his eyes. "Yes, there was history there. Complicated, heavy." "Did you love her?" I asked. Before I could stop myself, silence stretched. "Then no." The answer came clean. "But he did. And you resented it." His jaw tightened slightly. "I respected it." That felt closer to truth. The wind rose between us. "Do you intend to protect him?" I asked. "I intend to protect the realm. And if those are not the same," his eyes searched mine, "then choices must be made." The words echoed. Choices. War was coming. The council was tightening its grip. My husband stood defiant, and this man, this watcher, stood between loyalty and judgment. I realized then that my greatest danger was not affection, it was understanding, because I was beginning to understand them both. And understanding shifts allegiance in ways even the crown cannot predict. Below us in the darkened courtyard, soldiers drilled despite the hour. Preparing for what? No one said aloud, but we all felt it. The shadow was moving closer, and the council would not wait patiently to see which side Blackmoor chose. The first report arrived 3 days later. A northern watchtower burned. No survivors. No banners left behind. That was the most unsettling part. War usually announces itself with pride. This came in silence. I was seated beside my husband in the council chamber when the messenger delivered the news. The stranger stood near the wall, half in shadow, as though he preferred to witness events from the edges. Raiders, my husband asked. The messenger shook. His head? Too organized? Too precise? Casualties? Total. The word lingered in the chamber like smoke. My husband dismissed the man and remained standing long after the doors closed. The chamber felt colder than usual. They test us, the stranger said quietly. They provoke, my husband corrected. They measure response. Watch them both. And what response do they expect? Retaliation, the stranger replied, or weakness. My husband's hands rested flat against the heavy oak table. If I mobilize troops, the council will accuse me of escalation. If you do nothing, the stranger said, they will accuse you of incapacity. It was a trap designed with care. War from the north, suspicion from the south, pressure tightening from both directions. And what does the crown believe? I asked. The stranger's gaze shifted to me. The crown believes instability must be contained swiftly. Contained, I repeated. Yes, the word felt deliberate, not resolved, contained as one. Contains a disease or a rebellion. I felt the shape of it then. If Blackmoor appeared unable to defend its borders, the crown would intervene. Intervention would mean soldiers, governors, oversight. Blackmoor would cease to be sovereign, in all but name, and my marriage would become irrelevant. My husband straightened. Send riders to the northern villages. Quietly reinforce the garrisons. And if the council hears of it, I asked. They will, the stranger answered. Then let them, my husband said. The tension in his voice had changed, less defensive, more decisive. The shadow of war was not merely approaching, it had arrived. That evening I walked the lower halls of the keep. Soldiers moved with urgency. Now, armor was inspected, weapons sharpened. Orders murmured in low tones. No one spoke of fear, but it lived in their eyes. Blackmoor had already lost too much. It could not endure another full campaign. I found my husband in the armory. He stood alone before a rack of swords, his hand resting on one he had not yet lifted. You intend to ride north yourself, I said. He did not turn. Yes. When? At first light. The finality in his voice struck me. You are summoned to court. I will send word of delay. The council will not accept that. He faced me then. I will not leave. My borders undefended. You may not have the choice. A flicker of frustration crossed his expression. You speak as though you serve them. I serve stability. And if stability demands obedience, and if obedience demands surrender, I countered. Silence fell between us. We were no longer strangers bound by ceremony. We were two, rulers standing at the edge of fracture. Footsteps approached behind me, measured, unhurried. The stranger. You ride north, he said calmly. That will confirm every fear the council harbors. And what would you have me do? My husband demanded. Invite the enemy further in. I would have you consider that this may not be a northern threat at all. The air shifted. I turned slowly. Explain. The stranger met my gaze first. No banners, no declarations, precise strikes. That is not the northern tribes. Then who? My husband asked. A faction within the realm. The implications settled heavily. Manufactured instability, designed to justify intervention. You believe the council would burn its own watchtower? I asked. I believe some men value control more than land. The armory felt suddenly too small. If that is true, my husband said slowly, then riding north is exactly what they want. Yes, and remaining here, also dangerous. We stood suspended. Between impossible choices, I stepped closer. If this is internal, I said carefully, then someone seeks to provoke you into appearing rebellious. My husband's eyes darkened, and if I refuse to act, my people suffer. The weight of it pressed against my chest. This was not merely strategy. These were lives, villages, children, Blackmoors. Loyalty had always been tested through endurance. Now it was being tested through manipulation. The stranger moved nearer to the sword rack, his fingers grazing the steel lightly. There is another option. My husband's gaze sharpened. Speak. Send me. Silence. You, my husband said, I am already the council's envoy. If I ride north, it appears as investigation, not mobilization. And if you are killed, I asked. Before I could stop myself, his eyes flickered briefly toward me. Then the council loses its eyes. My husband studied him carefully. You offer much. I offer pragmatism. You offer yourself as shield, I said softly. He did not. And to that, the room felt suspended. I realized then that this man, this watcher, was placing himself between the crown's suspicion and Blackmoor's reaction. Why? Duty, ambition, or something else? You would ride under my banner, my husband said at last. Yes, and report. Truthfully, yes. A long pause. Then my husband nodded once. Very well. The decision settled. Like a stone dropped into deep water. Irreversible. The stranger inclined his head. I will depart before dawn. He turned to leave, but I stepped into his path. Why? I asked quietly. He stopped. For a moment, the mask slipped. Not entirely, but enough. Because, he said softly, if Blackmoor falls, the realm fractures. And you care so deeply for unity? I care for what survives it. His gaze held mine longer than it should have. Then he moved past me. Later, when the keep had quieted and torches burned low, I stood alone in the courtyard. The moon cast pale silver across the stone. I heard footsteps behind me. I did not need to turn. You question my loyalty, he said quietly. I question everyone's. That is wise. You did not deny that this threat may be born from the council. No, nor did you deny that they may act against my husband. No. Then tell me this, I said, facing him fully. If you discover proof of their manipulation, where will you stand? He stepped closer, not touching, never touching. Where you stand, he answered. The words struck deeper than they should have. Careful, I murmured. With what? Promises. A faint, almost weary smile touched his mouth. I do not make promises lightly. The wind shifted. Dawn approached. War moved in shadows, and between my husband's defiance and the council's suspicion, something else was forming. Not yet love, not yet betrayal, but alignment. And alignment in times of war is the most dangerous force of all. Dawn came without color. The sky was a pale, indifferent gray as the gates of Blackmoor opened to release him. He wore no green that morning, only dark leather and steel, practical and unadorned. A sword at his hip, the Baron's banner fastened to his saddle. My husband stood beside me in the courtyard as the small escort assembled. Neither of us spoke. The air felt suspended, fragile. You will send word, my husband said at last. I will send truth, the stranger replied, their eyes locked, not as rivals, not as allies, as men who understood the cost of miscalculation. Then he turned to mount his horse. For a brief moment, before he settled fully into the saddle, his gaze lifted to me. No smile, no defiance, only something steady, unspoken. Then he rode through the gates, and the gates closed. Behind him, silence. The keep felt larger after his departure, quieter, yet the quiet was not peace, it was pressure. By midday, word had already spread among the servants and soldiers. The council's envoy riding under Blackmoor's banner. Some saw strength in it, others saw exposure. My husband withdrew to the war chamber. Before noon, maps were unrolled, markers shifted, messengers dispatched. He did not ask me to join him. I entered anyway. The chamber smelled of ink and old smoke. He did not look up when I approached. "You doubt me," he said. "I doubt the situation. You fear my decision. I fear all of them." That earned his attention. He straightened slowly. "You trust him," he said. It was not accusation. It was observation. "I trust his clarity," I answered. "And mine? Yours is burdened." A flicker of something, hurt, perhaps, passed through his expression. "You believe I am blinded?" "I believe you are cornered." He moved away from the table. "Cornered. Men are dangerous." "Yes, and you fear I will become one." "I fear you already are." The truth lay between us, sharp and undeniable. He walked toward the narrow window overlooking the eastern hills. "If the council moves against us," he said, quietly, "I will not kneel." I felt my pulse slow. "Even if kneeling preserves your people, preservation without dignity is slow death." "And war is swift death," I replied. He turned. "You speak as though you would surrender." "I speak as though I would calculate." The word lingered. "Calculate, not yield, not rebel, measure." His gaze searched mine. "You are not what they expected," he said, "nor are you." For the first time since our marriage, the air between us softened, not with affection, but with recognition. We were not enemies, but we were not united either, and unity in this moment was survival. That evening, a rider arrived from the northern villages, alive, wounded. The hall gathered around him as he spoke, through bloodied lips. "No northern banners," he gasped. "Armor, unmarked, discipline, not raiders." My husband's jaw tightened. "And the envoy?" he asked. "He reached the village at dusk, took command, sent scouts." Relief flickered across the baron's features, brief, quickly masked. "He holds the line," the soldier finished before collapsing into the waiting arms of the healers. The hall erupted in murmurs. "Holding the line." The phrase carried weight. I felt it settle inside me. He had placed himself at the edge of violence, without hesitation, not for glory, not for recognition, for stability, or perhaps for us. That night, sleep did not come easily. I lay awake, in the chamber that had once belonged to another woman. The Baron did not join me, whether by intention or caution, I did not know. The candle burned low, the wind pressed against the windows, and my thoughts refused silence. I had been raised to understand power, to measure it, to anticipate its shifts. Yet I had not anticipated this, the quiet fracture within myself. When I thought of the stranger riding beneath Blackmoor's banner, I did not feel romantic longing. I felt alignment, a clarity, as though he saw the game not as pieces to sacrifice, but as patterns to unravel. And that frightened me, because I was beginning to see them too. Just before dawn, another messenger arrived. This one from the capital, summons sealed in, crimson wax, urgent. The council required our presence, alone. The parchment trembled slightly. In my hand as I read it, my husband stood across from me in the solar. They move quickly, he said. They separate us, I replied. Yes. Silence thickened. If I refuse, I asked, they will escalate. If I go, you walk into scrutiny. I folded the letter carefully. They believe I am the easier piece to move. His gaze darkened. You are not a piece. No, I said, quietly. I am leverage. The word felt cold, accurate. You will not go, he said suddenly. That is not your decision. It is my protection. And my agency, I asked evenly. He faltered, just slightly. I stepped closer. If I refuse, they intervene openly. If I accept, I buy time. Time for what? For him to uncover truth, I said softly. Understanding dawned slowly. In his eyes, you rely upon him. I rely upon information. And if he fails, then we will. No. The keep felt smaller again, pressed. Between north and south, between suspicion and provocation. I will go, I said. The decision settled heavily but firmly. My husband's voice lowered. If they detain you, they will not. You cannot be certain. No, I agreed, but neither can they. He studied me as though seeing me fully for the first time. Not a bride, not a political shield, a strategist. When do you leave? He asked. At dusk, the word lingered. Dusk? The same hour I had arrived as his wife, the same hour the stranger had appeared, full circle. By afternoon, preparations were made. A modest escort, no display of resistance, no hint of fear. As I mounted my horse in the courtyard, I felt the weight of unseen eyes. The gates opened before they closed. A final rider approached from the northern road, mud-streaked, breathless. He carried no banner, only a sealed note. For the Baroness, he said hoarsely. My heart stilled. I broke the seal. 3 lines. The threat is not northern. It is closer than we thought. Trust no. Counselor bearing silver. No signature. None. Needed. I folded the note slowly. The council summoned me into their hall. He warned me from the edge of war. And somewhere between those two forces, the truth waited. I lifted my chin. Ride, I commanded, and as Blackmoor disappeared. Behind me I understood at last. This was no longer about marriage, nor debt, nor even war. It was about revelation, and revelation demands sacrifice. I once believed fate was a decree written by others, a signature pressed into wax, a marriage sealed without consent, a throne guarded by men who feared shadows more than enemies. But I have learned something far more dangerous. Power does not belong to those who sit upon it. It belongs to those who understand it. I was sent to Blackmoor as a bond, a guarantee, a silent assurance that loyalty would not fracture. Instead, I became witness to the fracture already. There, between crown and realm, between duty and survival, between the man I married and the man who arrived that night. War does not begin with swords. It begins with doubt and love, if it dares. To grow in such soil must choose whether it will be weakness or weapon. What I did next reshaped. More than a marriage, it reshaped a kingdom, but that is a story for those who wish to see how loyalty is tested when truth is finally spoken aloud. If this tale stirred something in you, if You felt the weight of the crown, the silence. Before war, the tension between duty and desire. Then stay, subscribe to this channel and walk deeper into these halls of power with me. And tell me in the comments, if you were in my place, would you choose the crown or the man who challenged it? The next chapter waits in the shadows.